Hello everyone and welcome to the Pitskill.io Porsche Cup sponsored by SimQuips. I'm your host Roy Weller and tonight we are at a lovely sunny Donington Park for round 8 of the championship as our drivers make their way around the second half of the lap on this outlap into qualifying. We've got just a few moments to take a look at our championship standings so far. And with Matthew Parry leading the way on 477 points, almost a race win in hand over the rest of the field. But behind, we have got a close battle for P2 with Balázs Fehér and Rhys Tattersall separated by just 3 points. And then down the order with 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, all the way down. Actually, the rest of the top 15, not much separating each driver in there. So still plenty to be played for in this championship. And those drivers down the lower end of the top 15 have still got to keep their wits about them as we enter into the final couple of rounds. And worth bearing in mind for any of those new to Porsche Cup, we do have 2 drop rounds for each of these drivers this season, so drivers' worst results will be eliminated, so these results could very easily be vastly different at the end of the season. So as we return to the action, it will be Busso who will be the first driver to set a flying lap as he rounds the final hairpin. And we will then see our first representative time of the session. As he crosses the line, it is a 1 minute 29.3 for Busso, and he's followed not too far behind by Balázs Fehér, and now slotting into P3 is Matthew Parry. And as we now have a number of drivers with times on the board, it's still this man, Busso, who sits on the top step. As we check in with a driver, we often expect to see at the top Mr. Rhys Tattersall, the winner of the previous 2 seasons of the Porsche Cup Championship, currently sitting down in P3 in the standings at the moment. And he's got a little bit of traffic for company up ahead as the number 54 car goes rally crossing. And let's see what sort of time are we going to get from Rhys on this first flying lap. Coming around the final corner to complete the lap. Blue flags are waving for those cars currently on their outlap. And as expected, Rhys Tattersall going up to the sharp end of the grid with a 1:29.2. But not far behind is Johan Leff, another driver who's really made his mark on the top of the standings in previous championships. Both Rhys and Johan missing a number of rounds, so aren't quite as competitive this season as we have come to expect from them. But Matthew Parry, with the first driver into the 1 minute 28, the 1 minute 28.8, as he descends through the Carina curves. And Parry will be looking to extend his lead. Check to see who else we've got in our session tonight. Our series sponsor in that also distinctive baby blue livery is Chris SimQuips Wright, who makes an excursion into the grass and returns to the pit lane. As Andy Hudson slots his way into P9. Part of the Only Boomers Racing crowd. And going strong so far in the session. I know that Andy doesn't put much practice into these Porsche Cup races, so we'll be finding pace throughout the session. Although I have seen a gif of him going sideways around Donington, as he does so here, kicking the rear out. And not necessarily the fastest way around the corners, but sometimes can be a little bit tricky to keep that Porsche rear end in check. Yes. And it seems to have invalidated this lap. We will see who else there is for us to check in with. As Robert Weidbeck looking for a solid improvement here on their lap time. This could put them up into the sharp end of the grid. P3 for Weidbeck as he crosses the line. They 1:29.1. As he, well, oh, clearly happy with that one. But someone who will be less happy with that is Meyer van Dijk, who got quite heavily impeded there. Although I think that was just Van Dijk leaving the pit lane. So, yep, currently on an out lap. So, can't complain too much about the blocking there. As Matthew Parry has improved further with a 1:28.7. And let's see if he can improve on that. Matthew Parry finding pace lap on lap, improves to a 1:28.5. Solid lap time there from Parry, and some half a second clear of the rest of the field. Another driver who is battling hard at the top of the standings, John Sawyer, has had some misfortune in the past few rounds, especially at Zandvoort. So we'll be looking to make up for that in these final 3 rounds of the season. Up plenty on his previous best at the moment, as Rhys Tattersall slots himself into P2 with 1:28.7. John Sawyer crosses the line to retake that P2 with a 1:28.6, which is 1 1/4 tenths shy of current pole sitter Matthew Parry. It seems these drivers now just finding pace lap on lap. Everyone seemingly improving out there, as Johan Leff now crosses the line to take P2, 0.08 of a second behind Matthew Parry. That time set by Parry, standing strong for now, as we wait to see who will be the first to challenge it. As next up to make an attempt will be Roland Schricker. He rounds the final corner. Going to find a decent improvement here on this lap, but not enough to get near to challenging Parry. Though that said, still only 0.2 of a second off. That is how close this qualifying session is. As Rhys Tattersall, just 1 corner left on this Donington Park circuit. Will this be the one that unseats Matthew Parry? It is a 1:28.342. Rhys Tattersall moves up into provisional pole position with just under 5 minutes remaining of the session. We check down our order to see who else is improving, as a big load of dust is kicked up there by someone running off track, I imagine. Yes, I think someone has called the police, as Steve Goosens, currently running in P17, looking for a sizable improvement on this lap. Throws it into the chicane, so easy there to run wider track limits, but Goosens has kept it all under control and has got to be careful. It's got just got unfortunate there with catching the traffic. I believe that was a Nitro ahead, and Steve Goosens losing that advantage he had built up over that lap. Sometimes you can just get unlucky with the timing, as he has managed to make it past the car of Nitro and can set about trying to replicate that effort. Andy Hudson rounds the final corner, is on for a decent improvement here. Improves up to P3 with a 1:28.552, just 0.02 of a second faster than Johan left behind. That being said, Lef currently up on their previous best, and this is looking like a solid lap. There's some time to find through the final corner. It gets into the slipstream of the car ahead. It is an improvement, but not by much, and just about enough to leapfrog over Andy Hudson by almost the same amount that he was jumped before. So those two exceptionally close on pace. And looks like Steve Goosens has been able to replicate that effort. Is currently up on their previous lap, and this time with no car ahead of them to interrupt their flow. Just one corner remaining on this race circuit, and Steve Goosens running a bit deep into the hairpin, knows he'll have a bit of time to find through that corner if he wants to go for another lap. Improves up to P16 and now finds himself amongst a group of very close timed cars. As Johan left, back marker, or the slower car, jumps out of the way. That is the car of Anshu, if I'm not wrong. Well, this tells me I can't actually see that driver on the track. No, sorry, it's Van der Kran. Is the yellow Rexy. As Left rounds the final corner. This is going to be a good time. 1:28.390. Cutting closer and closer to Reese Tattersall. Though Tattersall is improving as we speak. Who else is improving on their time? We've got Kenny Crows going strong as he comes down towards the chicane. All about just carrying the speed through there. It's a scary old corner, is that chicane here at Donington Park. But Crows finding a bit more pace over previous laps. As we approach the final few moments of this session, most drivers will be on their final lap now, as both King and Crows are improving. But Crows jumping up to P23 for now. Improving also, we have got Luke Tranmer, who was spending much of the session down at the tail end, is finding some pace now, and this should see them jump considerably up the order. Oh, actually not that considerably, only up to P12 for now for Luke Tranmer. And things are close at the top as Reese Tattersall has retired to the pit lane. We can go on board with Johan Leff for what will be his final attempt to try and snatch pole position away from Reese Tattersall. Currently down by 1/100th of a second. And at the moment doesn't look to be improving on this lap, but still plenty of the lap to go. Plenty of opportunity to find that time as the rear getting loose. And the left is throwing absolutely everything at this lap. I suspect maybe just a little bit of overdriving coming from left. He comes through the chicane, which is the place where you can gain or lose a chunk of time. Left is close, as Busso has a great final lap of the session to jump up to P3. Oh, as Johan Left just giving it a little bit too much there, overdriving the car, trying to find time where it was not to be found. And same there goes for Luke Tranmer, who will be ruining that mistake as he comes across the line. Would have been chance for a great improvement there, potentially up to P8, but in the end has to settle for P10 as Svoboda crosses the line in P15. And there we have our order for tonight's race. On pole position will be Rhys Tattersall ahead of Johan Leff. And so, as we wait for our drivers to get ready to take us away on this formation lap, we can just run through our starting grid for tonight's race. We have got 33 drivers on the grid for you tonight, so a lovely packed race, and sure there'll be plenty of action throughout the next 30 minutes. And starting on pole position will be Rhys Tattersall. Lining up alongside him on the grid is Johan Leff. Two very fast drivers heading up this race. Should be an interesting one to watch. Behind them, Busso GT with that impressive final lap of the session. Alongside him will be our championship leader, Matthew Parry. And the third row of the grid will be Andy Hudson and John Sawyer, followed by Roland Stricker and Robert Weidbeck. Behind P9 and 10 will be Nathan Smith-Adams and Luke Tranmer, followed by Tadeusz Szynski and Balazs Feher. Behind is Gregor Michalak and Alas Scoyne. And we have Svoboda and Jonas Windley. Martin Steinbeck is P17 alongside Steve Goosens. Our series sponsor, Chris Wright, is alongside Bjorn King on the 10th row of the grid, with Matthias Peltzer and Karol Pustrovsky behind them. P23 we have got Patrick van der Kraan alongside Kenny Kroes. P25 is Felix Kotick with Simon Stamilier behind them. Chamoy Samuel and Maya van Dijk. P27 and P28. P29 is Nitro. Alongside them is Oliver Schwartz. P31 is Martin. Alongside him will be Marco Lorenzon. And finally, in P33 will be Taj Johal. And as our drivers pull away on this formation lap here at Donington Park, just some opportunity for these drivers to get a little bit of heat into those tyres, as already looks like Luke Tranmer taking objection to the apex markers there. It's a very tricksy one actually, that getting rid of those apex markers, because they do allow you to see where the apex of that corner is as you crest over the hill. There's a bit of a blind apex of the Craner curve, so I'm not sure if that was tactical from Luke Tranmer or just testing the track limits on his formation lap. And to take us through some of the interesting liveries we have out on the field tonight, we've obviously got Tadeusz Szynski running the usual Rexy livery. He's followed by Balazs Feher in the Subaru. Where is he? In P14 we've got Scoyne in the Pink Pig. And Luke Trammer in the LTR car. And we've got Andy Hudson running the Pissvasser livery with Chris Wright in his usual SimQuips livery. And then the obvious one is Steve Goosens in that also familiar police livery. And as our drivers come towards the final corner of the racetrack, lining up 2 by 2, ready to get this race underway at Donington Park, it will be Rhys Tattersall leading the way ahead of Johan Leff as we wait for the green flag to wave. And we are racing at Donington Park. And it looks like it's a decent run from Rhys Tattersall, leading the way as there's contact between Tattersall and Leff. Is that contact going to allow Busso to come up the inside through the crane of curves? Looks like Busso's got that move made, although Leff with a little bit more confidence there, carrying the speed. And it's now Busso falling back towards the clutches of Matthew Parry. Andy Hudson following them through. Looks like the Balazs Faye here actually just having a look around the outside of Andy Hudson. Oh, sorry, no, that's not Balazs Faye here. That is John Sawyer. And John Sawyer seemingly tripping over the likes of Robert Weidbeck, who's coming up the inside. It also looks like Nathan Smith-Adams there, looking now to what will be the outside as they run down towards the chicane. Also got Luke Tranmer and Tadeusz Szynski side by side coming through the chicane. Plenty of action in this midfield. As it does look like Balazs Faye here has made it past Tadeusz Szynski. Oh, there's actually, look, there was a little bit of contact there at the end of that one. So, look like Balazs just getting that better exit from the chicane, and also the Pink Pig of Scoyne coming up the inside as well. And was there a spinner there? Yep, looked like that was from the cars in the background. And as we come round to start the second lap of this race, that's Roland Schricker off into the dirt on the outside of the circuit, losing a whole heap of positions there as he tries to rejoin the action. Now, what happened there? Just getting wheels out on the dirt, and oh, that's heavy contact with the wall there for Schricker. I don't think that car is going to be feeling quite so nice to drive now. Now Schricker under pressure from, I think that is Joe Hall alongside him, who dives up the inside. Schricker struggling gripping that car, but well, not struggling too much. He gets the better run. As we've got the green Rexy in trouble as I try and chase it down this order. The green flags out for Tadeusz Szynski, who are just getting a couple of wheels out on the grass as well. And Szynski, well, getting it back underway, but again losing a whole heap of positions from that incident. A lot going on at the start of this race. One driver who hasn't really had much to contend with is Rhys Tattersall, who so far pulled out it's got a half-second lead over Johan Leff, but this front pack of 5 cars managing to keep quite close together at the start of this race. We have often seen it that Rhys Tattersall has been able to disappear into the distance, but Johan Leff keeping him honest at this point in the race. As behind, we have got a real battle ensuing over P13 as Chris Wright has just got past Windy behind. And now Steve Goosens is the next car looking to try and make their way around. I think it might have been Windy who had that incident earlier on in the race. The number 136 car, I think was the one we saw spinning. But all the way back in this group, from Wright all the way down to Schricker, separated by just tenths of a second. And side by side, we've got Felix Kotick and King. As King maintaining that inside line. Will Kotick be able to hold on side by side as they come into the final corner? If he does, he will have the inside and should get the better run down. The start finish straight as Kenny Crowe sticking a nose up the inside as they battle three for a position. And King looking for high, but it's Kotick now up to actually Kotick off onto the grass. I look away for a moment and Kotick dropping down. Now down to P23, dropping behind Roland Schricker after his own travails earlier in the race. And further up ahead, John Sawyer all over the back of Robert Weidbeck. This for P6 in the race. So they head down towards the chicane. John Sawyer moving out of the slipstream, not anywhere near close enough to try and effect a pass into the chicane. It's a tricky enough corner to make it through there on your own, let alone alongside another car. It looks like Andy Hudson has made it past Matthew Parry. So when did this move take place? He's behind that as they come down into the chicane. Oh, Matthew Parry out onto the dirt, and Andy Hudson doing well there to take avoiding action as they enter into the hairpin side by side. But Andy Hudson made his way through up into P4 in this race. It looked like a momentary lapse in concentration there for Parry has allowed Hudson through. As this defending now, I think has slowed Weidbeck down ever so slightly as the battle has been joined by Smith, Adams and Tranmer. This the battle over P6. Matthias Peltzer has got past Steve Goosens. Oh, it's very good on the brakes there by Peltzer. That was a bold move. And so it looked like Steve Goosens just being a little bit cautious on the brakes. And Peltzer absolutely sending it through. Now Steve Goosens has got Steinbach for company. And Steinbach looking for a way through on Goosens. Looking like Goosens a little bit more confident on the brakes that time around. As Chris Wright has got Windy for company. As they come through the bottom of the Craner curves. Both holding on well. And will Windy have a look as they ascend the hill? He has a look to the inside, too far back to make anything of it at this point. But Windy looking like he's got a charge. Oh, a big snap of oversteer there from Chris Wright, and Windy will have the inside as they come down towards the chicane and managing to get fully ahead of Chris Wright before the braking zone. Move made there for Windy up into P13. ahead of them. Balazs Fahir has got Skoyen for company. The pink pig all over the back of the Subaru. Both driving beasts which would much rather be finding themselves in the mud, and well, let's hope that is not the fate that will befall either of these two. We've got some decent one-on-one battles happening throughout this field, as Andy Hudson, after Matthew Parry's mistake, has not been able to pull away from the driver in P5, and they remain locked together further up the field. And Chris Wright coming back on Windy as they proceed through the chicane, and it looked like there was a little bit of contact there as we go on board with Chris Wright into the braking zone, and I think Wright just getting caught out a little bit there by Windy moving across just before the braking zone. A little bit of a late move there in defence by Windy, perhaps caught Wright by surprise. And has Chris Wright disappeared somewhere? Nope, that was just a weird camera glitch. Chris Wright is still alive, everyone. No need to panic. The battle for P4 continues, and it is our first battle up towards the front of the grid, with Rhys Tattersall now holding a 1.7 second lead over Johan Leff. Harry and Hudson head towards the chicane yet again. And you can see, looking like Parry's got a bit of pace in hand, is got a little bit, you know, he's got that little bit more in advantage, that he's able to have a glance and move around a bit in the wheel tracks of Hudson, but not got the pace to actually try and affect a move at this point in the race. Needs to try and force a mistake from the driver ahead of him. There's Harry making another unforced error there, getting a couple of wheels out on the dirt. As Hudson really pushing the limits of the rear grip of that car. You can see the tail sliding around through that uphill section of track, and Andy Hudson obviously with a lot of confidence in the car underneath him, actually able to push it into a slide, never looking really out of control at the moment. As behind, Chris Wright has got a good run on Jonas Windy as they head through the top section, about to run down into the chicane again. Is Chris Wright going to have a better run this time around? As he looks to the inside, too far back. Windy defends it. Windy moves back to the racing line in defence again. Get away with that a couple of times, but not something you really should be doing too much. As could be argued it's more than one move across the racetrack to defend. As ahead of these, John Sawyer and Robert Weidbeck continuing to battle hard. And yeah, again, the car behind just looking like it's just like the chasing driver's getting a little impatient there. trying to push just that a little bit too much and putting the wheels out onto the dirt. We're seeing it again there from John Sawyer. Just pushing it ever so slightly more than they need to. And it's costing them a little bit of raw pace. Up ahead we can see that Hudson and Parry still glued together as they have been the majority of this race. As John Sawyer is going to have a look up the inside into the chicane. Side by side they go. And, well, in the end, Vibek bailing out of that one. Not able to defend from the charge of Sawyer, who makes his way up into P6. And then it was a good move there from Sawyer to take that position. And he will have his eyes forward with the intent of going and trying to catch up to Matthew Parry ahead. Behind these two, we can see Matthias Peltzer and Roland Stricker engaging in battle. Stricker with that head-on collision into the wall earlier in the race. Doesn't look like his car's carrying too much damage. Don't see that telltale sign of a gaping bonnet, which usually is the first thing to tell you that a Porsche Cup car is carrying heavy damage to the front. And Stricker still looking like he's got good control over that car, so what looked like a heavy shunt into the tyre wall, obviously not costing him too much in terms of front end grip, able to still put that car where he wants it. And as Peltzer runs wide of the apex, could be a good run here for Stricker. Doesn't fancy throwing one down into the 90-degree uphill blind apex, and can't say I blame him. But as they run down towards the chicane, is it going to be a lunge here from Stricker? Thinks better of it, tucks back in behind Peltzer, is going to aim to get the better run out of the corner. Gets such a better run that he nearly ends up rear-ending Peltzer. And, well, this battle being fought hard here by both Peltzer and Stricker. And does look like Stricker has got the pace at the moment, or at least the confidence. As Peltzer, making a few small errors, is allowing Stricker to just catch ever so slightly. And as the windy right fight has now caught on to the back of Svoboda, could this be the catalyst that Chris Wright needs in order to get a move made? He just needs to get lucky with potentially Windy getting slowed down by Svoboda, but Wright and Windy separated by still just 0.2 of a second, as they have been for a number of laps. As Chris Wright just disappeared. Nope, he's still there. Just perhaps a small mistake through the corner, and that means he isn't going to be close enough to Windy on this run down towards the chicane. As we've got a battle behind between Kenny Crows and Nitro, which I think just resolved itself, as Nitro tries to go around the outside. This is what opened the door for Kenny Crows to look up the inside, and that is often the difficulty or the danger in trying to go for a move in what is an unpopular overtaking place on the track. It's so easy to just get yourself caught offline, and then find yourself, instead of being the attacker, being the one on the defensive. As Nitro, I don't think that was a late call to go into the pit lane by Kotick there. I think just a little over eager on the throttle as he comes through the final corner. And very nearly taking an unscheduled pit stop. And, Don't really want to be ending up pointing backwards in the pit lane. Got lucky there with the gap in the traffic, but oh, we didn't see help, but he did end up in the pit lane in the end anyway. Will re-emerge back into P29, I believe, as Windy seemingly being left alone to this battle with Swoboda. Chris Wright now some 1.2 seconds behind and has actually got Roland Stricker for company, as Windy sends one up the inside of Swoboda, gets it slowed down on the apex, is going to have the inside on the exit, as there's contact there between Windy and Swoboda. It's Windy who's ahead now for the second hairpin, moves across to have the inside line, and Roland Stricker and Chris Wright getting by Swoboda there as well. That little bit of contact between Windy and Swoboda really costing that green liveried car, and Swoboda slips from P12 down to P15 in just a matter of corners. And Windy now has the opportunity to go and improve the pace that he has, with some clean air in front of him. As we now enter the final 10 minutes of this race, and still Andy Hudson and Matthew Parry seemingly joined at the hip, as 13 laps into this race, still not been separated, as Matthew Parry goes for a Hail Mary dive up the inside. Doesn't pay off though, and well judged there from Andy Hudson to go for the switchback, as Parry lunges it in, can't quite get the car slowed down enough, and Andy Hudson retains the position ahead of Parry, and now even extended that gap. Such was the mistake there from Parry. And Roland Stricker having a good recovery drive hit. We did worry that he might have damage to the front of that car, but showing good pace, and well, if anything, it looks like he's got a little bit of rear instability rather than a lack of front grip. As Swoboda, up the inside of Chris Wright, moves up into P14. And Chris Wright seemingly getting eaten up a little bit at this point in the race. Has had Windy, Stricker and now Swoboda pass him. And is now seemingly being lined up by Matthias Peltzer, looking to demote our series sponsor down to P16. As Roland Stricker looking to the inside of Jonas Windy. Nothing doing there on this lap of the race. As we can see behind, Swoboda still leading ahead of Wright and Peltzer. As Wright looking around, wants to try and find a way past Swoboda, and as Swoboda goes deep into the hairpin, well, that time less of a commentator's curse and more of a commentator's gift, as sees part for Chris Wright, and he manages to make it back up into P14. These two having a real back and forth battle, as the rear gets loose for Swoboda and very nearly collecting Matthias Peltzer. Well read by Peltzer there to avoid going into the back of this wiggling car in front of him. See how close that was. Well judged on the brakes there by Matthias Peltzer. Very nearly ending in a plane crash there, but just backs out of it enough to allow the slide to happen in front of him. Now it looks like Roland Stricker has made his way past Windy. It's actually already through at this point, so not quite sure where that move was made. Roland Stricker sliding through these corners. And despite that front damage, yeah, as I said before, looking like it's the rear of that car that's still struggling for grip. But neither of these two showing much of a pace advantage over the other, as Stricker not been able to drop Windy. The gap's still at 0.4 seconds. As Chris Wright leading Peltzer and Svoboda through the Craner curves. As our race enters into its final 5 minutes, and across the board it does seem like the battles are quietening down just a little bit. But we still have Matthew Parry still trying to chase down Andy Hudson, with Scoyen and Fahey separated by not much over P10 and 11. Stricker and Windy still going strong, and then we have Wright and Peltzer and Svoboda, and now Goosens. And well, Goosens getting through past Svoboda there. What has happened to Svoboda? Because he just seemed to disappear. Oh, going very deep into the corner and yep, out onto the gravel. And that has allowed a police liveried car up into P16, and not far off the back of this battle between Wright and Peltzer. Wright going a little bit deep into the final corner. Has enabled Peltzer to keep with him through there. And they're battling, edging them slowly backwards towards Steve Goosens, who's now just about a second behind these two, and closing in at a considerable pace. And up at the front of the field, we still have got Andy Hudson ahead of Matthew Parry, with, I imagine, what will be now 3 laps remaining of this race, with Reece Tattersall just going and starting his next lap. So still plenty of time for a potential move here, as Andy Hudson needs to clear the back marker traffic. That is a Martin ahead. And the blue flag waving. Hudson will be wanting that car to get out of the way, and it is a lunge there from Hudson, but safely done, and manages to make his way through as the back marker backs off to allow Matthew Parry to make his way safely through. As we've got side-by-side battling here between Steinbach and Goosens. Steinbach off circuit considerably there, is going to lose a position to Goosens, might even lose one to Svoboda as well, and Svoboda is through. There's Fahey and Scoyen still separated by about 0.3 of a second. I'm not sure if these two cars have been any further apart than about half a second this entire race. Really good, close racing here by the two of them, and somehow also incident free. I don't think I have a single entry on my race control tab involving these two cars, so incredibly good work from Fahey and Scoyen to keep this battle close and clean. As Matthew Parry now getting very close to the back of Andy Hudson. He's going to look to try and line something up. Wants to make sure he's not compromising his exits. There's not really an opportunity to overtake until a little while. Will there be an opportunity into the chicane? Hudson really under pressure here from Matthew Parry. Parry closer than he has been for quite a while. As it looks like a better exit this time by Matthew Parry. Has got the inside into the hairpin. And this time Parry does get himself slowed down and to the apex in time. And that is Matthew Parry crucially up into P4. And with just one lap remaining in this race, does Andy Hudson have enough in reserve to be able to chase and try and get that position back? It looks like at this stage, perhaps Matthew Parry with just that little bit of pace in hand. And I wonder if Andy Hudson has just overcooked those rear tyres, because his car not looking the most stable, and John Sawyer catching at a rate of knots. We keep here with Andy Hudson. And so it is catching, but I'm not sure it's going to be enough, as Jonas Windy and Chris Wright are still tied together out on circuit. Well, it looks like Wright just dropped back far enough there to not be a problem for Windy anymore. But as he rounds the final corner and comes to take the checkered flag, Rhys Tattersall wins yet again in the SimQuips Porsche Cup to reassert his dominance, as Johan Leff finishes this race in P2. It was a well-fought battle there by Leff, but in the end had to make do with P2 after Rhys stretched his legs ahead. In a very quiet P3 is Busso. Didn't get to see much of that green, red and white liveried car. Such was his lonely race there in P3. Matthew Parry, who had anything but a lonely race in P4, finishes ahead of Andy Hudson, who now returns to the pit lane. John Sawyer's P6 with Vibeck in P7. Luke Tranmer finishing in P9. Fahir P10. Skoyen P11. We're in Stricker P12, Windy out on the gravel in P13, Wright P14, Matthias Peltzer P15, Svoboda 16, Steinbach 17, Goosens 18, P19 was Michalak, followed by King, Pros, Suzuki, Nitro, and those are our finishers on the lead lap of this race. And wow, that was a close finish at the end there. The drivers separated by much less than I previously thought. And well, there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for watching. A big congratulations again to our race winner, Rhys Tattersall, and our other podium finishers, Johan Leff and Busso. I've been your host, Roy Weller, and do tune in again on Wednesday evening, when we will be bringing to you the flagship series of Pitskill.io, the Go Setups VIP trophy, also here at Donington Park. And if you'd like to get involved with the Porsche Cup races or any of our races, do head on over to pitskill.io. And even better yet, go and use the referral link down in the description of this video. Get yourself signed up and get into some of those daily races. And, well, do also return next Monday when the Porsche Cup, sponsored by SimQuips, will be heading to Watkins Glen for another chaotic wet race. Till next time, have a very lovely rest of your day. I have been Roy Waller, and I will leave you with our race highlights. Good night.